Coming up on this episode of Press This, we continue our extended journey through the world of WordPress theme frameworks.
Today we look at the ever-popular Pagelines and iThemes offering Builder. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Press This. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Dan.
Dan, as always, it's a pleasure to see you, especially on this amazing WordPress show where we take a look at all the awesome WordPress themes, plugins, and all others nifty WordPress stuff, smash them together, try to find the best, which we typically don't do, but we try our hardest.
Well, we give you the option to find your best, and we provide you with the means to do so.
I like that. I really like that. And I want to hit 1,000 YouTube fans. Please, if you like us, if you think we're just a couple of crazy cats, do hit subscribe, slocumstudio.com/subscribe to join the mailing list.
Yep. And today,
we continue
our look at WordPress frameworks. We've talked about a whole bunch off the top of my head: Genesis, Headway, Suffusion.
Forgot about Suffusion.
Yeah, Suffusion, good stuff.
Yep.
The last week we talked about two free plugins, but this plugins that would actually act effectively as frameworks. But this week we're going back to the typical theme download framework kind of stuff. And we're looking at one that's free and premium. We'll call it freemium. And one that is just a completely premium theme. We have Pagelines, and then we have the Builder framework from iThemes. I believe that one's a little bit more popular, the iThemes one. I think that's one that's commonly used up there with StudioPress and Genesis, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But Pagelines is no joke either. Pagelines is in the repository of WordPress. It's got 400,000 downloads there for just the free version. It gets 3.4 out of 5 stars. We don't have that information for Builder, of course. That is a premium theme and does not appear there.
That is correct. So let's talk about the history of these, or at least Pagelines, because it's one I have more immediate exposure with from when it first came out.
Sure.
So I remember them coming out a couple years ago at this point, and I do remember jumping on and saying, you know what, we heard, I think they were the first ones to really market well before Headway, the drag and drop capability.
Right.
And back then, when we were just starting out the agency, we were thinking, you know what? Not a bad solution to give to our clients who want to just build something on their own. It just was not the case. It was still a difficult task for somebody to do on their own. It just wasn't that as easy as a Headway, let's say. Right. A lot more options, a lot more stuff built on top of it. The one of the other things, and this is one. So let's talk about Pagelines. 400,000 downloads, 3.4 out of 5 stars on WordPress.org. That's their free version.
That's the free version. Now, it's possible that many of these leads eventually came into Pro, so it's possible they're all downloads, but we can assume there are also some more downloads from people who just went straight Pro or got it from their website.
Yeah. So I think for a framework that has a support system, has an ecosystem, been around for a little while, those are all the positives.
Right.
I think using Pagelines became kind of quirky, kind of difficult. With all the different options that they had. You know, and there was a lot of overhead that I noticed back then using Pagelines, a lot of code overhead, so that when there was that time and you said, okay, I've built what I've needed to build with the framework. Now I just want to change this one little thing over here. There was all this Pagelines code on top of that that you had to just battle through.
Right. And I'd argue that's the case too with like a Headway or something like that, where if you change one thing somewhere, you're like, well, great. Now I have to go back and edit this, or make these changes, and something can go wrong, and it's a little bit more difficult because you're not straight developing it. To like,
I mean, you think about it, like think about a NASCAR car,
and
then think about like, I don't know, a soft luxury Cadillac, right?
So
this one's going to go super fast, but has 0 amenities. It's not comfortable. It doesn't even have an interior. It's open to the world. If you drove it in a 0-degree day with 3 feet of snow, you'd go nowhere.
Brilliant analogy.
Then you got the Cadillac, heavy, soft, comfortable, quiet.
But
it's not going to get you to 250 miles an hour really fast, point A
Right.
to point B.
Right.
When something goes wrong on this Cadillac, there's all this electrical components. You got to take apart the dashboard to get to this. I have to go underneath here and rewire this. There's all this stuff.
Sure.
NASCAR car breaks. The only thing you have is a motor.
Yeah.
Right? You pick up the plastic frame, you fix it, you put the plastic frame back on, you're off.
That's all there is to it.
Right.
Just the motor.
Right. And that's where these frameworks come to a healthy balance.
Sure.
Which one is, this is what these developers are thinking. How easy can I make the newbie developer build something with my platform?
Sure.
And how critical is performance, and how lightweight can I make it for the truly engaged developer? Right.
Right. And what I like to say is most of our talks with our plugins and things, we always say, well, this is the one that's for the developer and this is the one for the designer. And I don't think that's really the case with these, because the whole reason you're going here is because I don't have that experience developing. I don't want to make one from scratch. Or I think maybe Genesis is the only one where it's a fairly blank template and you can sort of code over it and kind of have fun with it. And I think that's why it's so popular amongst others, especially for use with other clients. But for most of these guys, the reason I'm downloading this plugin is because I want to build one quickly and easily. So I think that when we look at it, we have to talk about it quite extensively.
Yeah, I think that it maybe just for me, for somebody who's in it a little bit more, I looked at Pagelines as very heavy.
Yeah.
And I really still can't wrap my head around their ecosystem and their pricing structure.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
And again, this is a very gray area. I have this conversation a lot on the Matt Report podcast that I do is, should we be charging more for WordPress stuff? I think the answer is yes.
Sure.
But I don't think we should make it complicated. So, I think it's to download their pro version is $197 plus another $19 a month to get access to all their stuff.
Right. It's displayed confusingly too. 97 is the single license or the base license.
And that's another, then you have to get 97 plus 14 a month.
14 a month for that.
Then there's you can mix and match your membership levels.
Yeah.
It's very kind of confusing. Then if you say, hey, I just want to buy the framework, it's $240 for the developer, which is on the high end of developer pricing for a framework. So you can
get the extensions either via for free with the when you pay that amount of money a month, 14 or 19 a month, depending on which price bracket you go, or you can just buy them separately for 10 to 20 bucks a piece.
Yeah.
So if you want floating social network buttons and slider images and things like that.
Yeah. And hey, these guys are pretty innovative. They've been around for a while.
Yeah.
I'm sure what they're doing is working for them. A lot of these companies are going to build these solutions for folks who maybe are out there reselling these products and services as a web developer, as a web designer. So they might be servicing their clients really well, and it's working out really well for these folks who are building sites for other people.
Right.
Go
ahead.
So I was just going to say that's a perfect transition over to Builder.
Yeah.
Because I think iThemes is one of those companies that isn't necessarily marketing to that typical end user, the pizza restaurant owner, or the typical, I want to build an e-commerce site, I'm selling stuff. I think iThemes, at least in my eyes, does a really good job of advertising to the people who are out there reselling WordPress.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
absolutely, and they give you a lot of tools out there to do that. A couple of the tools they give you with the $150 developer. So they have 3 pricing tiers. They have an $80 just get up and running base theme framework. They have $150 for the developer. It gives you all the child themes that they have available. It's like 60 of them. It also gives you Loop Buddy and Boom Bar, which we'll talk about in 1 second. And then for $197, they have a third option, which is gives you all that plus 80 classic themes, which I suppose are just their developed themes from the past. Of course, for most folks, 150 is going to seem like the attractive one. That's the way they've modeled it.
Yeah.
So Loop Buddy actually takes the PHP loop. We talked about it before, actually, on Fresh Web Dev. We talked about a little bit about the loop. And what this does is it takes the more complicated PHP functions and things like that within WordPress, and it basically kind of makes it a more visual approach. And Boom Bar, the second plugin they give you with the developer license, allows your widgets to be a little bit prettier and gives you more control over that widget development as well.
Yeah. So what I like about this approach is, so let's go through the goods and bads of the Builder framework. I really think that it is built as if somebody were explaining it on a whiteboard. Like, here's your header area, here's your content, here's your sidebar, And then you're going to take these pieces here, and you're drawing a circle around it, and you're drawing an arrow, and they fit right here. And this is how you kind of manipulate this stuff.
Right.
So what a person sees in the back end is they see sidebar widgets, content area, header, footer, and all these already predefined areas that you build content and widgets into.
Right.
Right. Hence the builder part of it.
Right.
So it doesn't. So it's it looks just like WordPress. So the negative behind that is, well, it's just not as sleek and sexy as maybe a Pagelines or a Headway themes, but there's not all this stuff that's on top of it, making it look sexy and pretty.
Sure.
So I guess what does that say? That says, well, it could be confusing to somebody. Look at all this stuff. How do they kind of offset that? They have a lot of help video tutorials in there.
Yep. Built right in the theme on WordPress, so it's really cool.
Yep. And so it helps that person get through that. But I kind of like that, again, workflow, because a lot of that falls back to this. I kind of like that compartment, like little cubby holes, like this is where it goes. Because if you're teaching this to somebody else, that's what you need.
Right.
It's great to have all this sexy drag and drop stuff, but if it's overwhelming to somebody, like, wow, I don't even want to touch this, I'm afraid.
And it's essential for them too, because you have to buy their theme. You can't just get it for free. Because you have to buy it from them, you need that peace of mind. You need to be able to say, well, you can't get frustrated. You don't want to frustrate somebody with that thing you just charged them $80 for, $150 for, and say, here's your getting started. Here's literally a whole tab that they have just for getting started. Where with the other option we have with the Pagelines, what it ends up becoming is, well, you get it for free. So you can look through it and say, I hate this, I don't want it. Well, good, you didn't pay anything for it anyway. But what Pagelines does really well is they kind of force you to buy their plugin. So I'd almost say that Pagelines could be looked at as a premium plugin with a free trial. Because all the options that, as I was looking, all the options that made sense to me, like, oh, I'd want that. It's professional only. But they at least give you a way to get in there, decide if you like it or not, say, okay, I like the way this is laid out. They do have help stuff, but again, there's so many buttons and things all over the place on theirs that you kind of have to sit there and drink your coffee or something before you do it. Like
I totally get where you're going. And then on the builder side of it, I do like that the way that they package this together is there's not, like I said, there's a ton of options. There's a ton of things you can do, but you just don't feel like there is in the beginning. There's not that overwhelming feeling. And then it's like they could put Loop Buddy in there, but why do that? Loop Buddy being able to edit the WordPress loop, it's almost like, you know what? You ran with Builder for 6 months. Yeah. You've graduated. Yeah. Now get Loop Buddy to do even more powerful stuff. And I think that's an interesting way to market it. Corey, who runs and owns iThemes, probably kill me for saying this, but I think that they market themselves to that beginner developer, whereas like a StudioPress might say like, build some of the largest WordPress websites with StudioPress framework. Whereas iThemes Builder is like, hey, if you're just starting out selling WordPress websites to people, this is a great platform to build them with. And let us show you how we can kind of gradually make you a better developer or have a better offering as you go along. That's just my take.
No, I agree. I get it completely. I agree. And I think that, again, when we talk about these plugins and when I inevitably write my big blog post wrap up of all these plugins here, I'm sorry, all these theme frameworks. So you're saying plugins. When we look back at it, I think we're going to find that iThemes has its own market here. Yes. And Pagelines is sort of a kind of stuck. Personally, I believe it's kind of stuck between these others, and it's not as good as other ones that do different things. And so I don't think we can say, well, if you usually at the end of an episode of PressThis, which is kind of where we are right now, we say, well, this plugin does this, and if you're this, you can use it for that. Oh, but this other plugin is for this person. And I think that with iThemes, we can say that it's for that newbie who is getting into it. It's going to do a really good job of easing them into it, but then giving you lots of control. Yeah. And we haven't really said that about any of them yet. And with Pagelines, it's just, well, it's kind of drag and drop, but it's not quite as visually sound as like a Headway. Right. And it's stuck. Right. Yeah. And like the drag and drop part is not really. It's just like these little things that you can just like, make the content. Right. It's not live. It's just so you're A/B test. Go over here and click on this. I know this looks like crap, and then back, and then If anybody's just listening to the show, they had no idea what you were doing. They just heard a couple of grunts, but that's okay. Well, either way, they have no idea what I'm doing. Watching, listening.
So anyway, that's a wrap up of Builder and Pagelines. We hope that you like where we're going with this frameworks session that we're doing.
Sure.
If you want to see another one, I think we'll be wrapping them up pretty soon. But if you have a couple more that you want us to take a look at, do let us know in the comments. Tweet to us at Slocum Studio. Follow us on G+, Google+, Facebook, anything you can find. But most importantly, hit subscribe on YouTube because it really helps us gauge our success with the show. So hit subscribe. We want to hit 1,000. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.